Can you trust your friends and your partners like your life depended on them? My father tripped me out when I shared with him how people are literally destroying their lives because of how a relationship is ending. And he said if people would choose their friends and their partners like they did in the Marines, they would actually understand that your life depends on it. We need to take inventory of our relationships. Can you really trust them to protect your life if it came down to it? Or are you just convenient, being used for your resources until they find the next person to use? Let me tell you a little bit about how my sister's life ended early due to relationship decisions and how even my choices afterwards made a huge difference. I wrote this one morning about 4 a.m. Wrote it on the notes in my phone, right? It was on me. And I didn't want to miss the opportunity, one, to reread it, and two, to be able to help and share this with someone else. So here we go. My sister passed away January 13, 2014, the year I jumped from $58,000 to $142,000 as a new life insurance agent. Although she is resting in peace today, I want to thank her. I want to thank her for showing me that this life is short. And if we're not careful, we could be caught up in the everyday doings that we will miss our calling. We will miss our opportunity to be great by sharing our God-given gifts with others. We miss the signs that are all around us of people, places, and things that are designed to keep us from our true path in this life, but appeared to be the blessings we asked for. Even I fell into the traps as to why I am sharing our story now, in hopes that you can find clarity in your own life and the strength to make the necessary changes to get back on track. I believe that we were all born with a powerful purpose, and my prayer is that you find clarity through this book, Rising from Shadows, a journey of loss, love, and triumph, coming soon. Now, 9 years prior to my sister passing, she had a stroke. And that stroke changed her life, my life, and our family's life forever. My mother took care of her from the day that she was released from that hospital. And I also want to thank my mother for showing me that no matter what, God will give you the strength and the resources to whatever you have to do for your family. My mother is a saint. She shut off all her relationships and freedom to care for my sister, her daughter, for 9 of my mother's prime years. There wasn't even had many gifts from God, but she was so caught up in this world's pain and disappointments that she, like many people, gave up. Slowly and privately, she gave up. She went from going out 2 to 3 times a week to drinking all day in the privacy of her own home and shutting herself off from friends and family. It became her norm. Looking back, I can see when her life started to make a downward shift. In high school, she met this guy who she could just not keep her hands off, not stop talking about this guy. She just knew that it was everything that she ever wanted. He wasn't nice to other people. I actually remember saying he was mean, but she said he wasn't mean to me, and he loved me so much she could see it in her eyes. She was going to get married and have his children and live happily ever after. She wanted that white house with the fence and the dog, you know, the dream that most of us have. They moved in together, and we hardly even saw her unless they had a fight, and then she would pop up. Then she was pregnant with her first child, a boy. It's like every man wants a son, right? So everything was so after that child was born. A few years later, she had a second child, and this child has severe mental challenges. And by the age of 2, she still couldn't talk, barely could walk, and we knew something was seriously wrong. And that shifted in that relationship. Really took a turn for the worse. My sister was so caught up on her child's father that she lost her self-worth completely. When she told him that they had been playing house for way too long and she wanted to just go and get married, he could figure out a wedding later in life, but he walked away and actually married another woman 6 months later. Imagine that. Her heart was broke. Her spirit was broke. He wanted nothing to do with her or his special needs child. Nothing. And my sister was devastated. And she gave up. And she gave her all to this man. I mean, her all. My sister, again, was amazing. God gifted her with beauty and book smarts. She could sing, dance, and could run like a horse. Not to mention, when she walked, it was like her feet didn't touch the ground. She would float. When she walked in a room, everyone noticed her. Everyone. She wrote poetry from her heart, and I'll share some of that in the book. She taught herself how to write in a different language, and she could draw anything to perfection. She was a queen, God's queen, but she got lost in a worldly man and lost her way. After her stroke, the doctor said that she wouldn't make it, but she was also a fighter. She fought and lived 9 additional years. Her voice was gone as the nurses messed up her voice when they put in the trach with the breathing tube. She couldn't dance anymore. She couldn't run. She couldn't walk because of the swelling in her brain. The doctors had to actually remove 1/4 of her left cerebellum. She couldn't even write or draw anymore. And her passion was to write poems. Everything seemed to vanish. The gifts she was given initially were gone. I fell into a deep depression. I woke up every day, got dressed, went to work, smiled when I needed to, but I was lost. I was devastated. How could this happen? Why did this happen? She had 2 beautiful children, a son who needed her and a daughter with special needs who needed her as well. She was a single mom trying to hold it all together alone. She also had a lot of pride, which kept her from asking for help when she needed it the most, when we couldn't see it. I realized after my sister passed that I too lived a life on other people's terms. I didn't want to make any noise. I didn't want to make anyone jealous of me or what I could do. I couldn't see my gifts as I was so caught up in the gifts that my sister had. And now the lack of. I didn't want to be noticed by anyone really. I tried to fit in and be normal, whatever that means. I allowed other people's fears to become my own, and my life seemed kind of pointless. I now was getting lost in a world that simply wanted to swallow me up, just as it did my sister. But her passing, it woke me up. The day before she passed, I was about 5 hours away working leads and got caught up in an ice storm. Leads are information cards that people fill out when they want to learn more about life insurance. I was 5 hours away, and I'll never forget how scared I was to drive home, as I didn't have any money to stay the 4 days in a hotel to wait out that storm. I called my husband at the time, and he tried to calm me down the best that he could, but I needed my sister. She had become close to God, prayed all day after her stroke, and even started an online ministry where she would type with a pencil 1 letter at a time until completion. So I called my sister and I said, I need you to pray for me as I drove down this steep mountain, and she did. She prayed and she prayed, and I made it to safety. I remember her asking me if I was coming to see her before I went on this insurance manager's retreat in Florida that was scheduled 2 days later. I told her, of course, I'll be there to see you before I leave. And that was the last conversation. As that next morning, she went home. She slipped away peacefully that night in her sleep. She was gone. I was in the insurance industry for 2 years part-time, and I had made that decision to go full-time in December 2013. I was told to become a manager, I needed to make 6 figures selling life insurance, and the training was that January 14th, 2014 in Florida. My sister passed the day before that Florida trip. What would you have done? Stayed home or taken a leap of faith and jumped on that plane? I helped my mother plan everything that needed to be planned for the final arrangements, called my cousin, who is a master at these things, actually it's her profession, and I was gone. My mother said to me, it makes no sense for you to stay here. My sister is gone, and you still have to live. While others probably criticized me for leaving my mom at that time to go on what seemed like a trip, was all fun, no one knew what I was going through inside. Those 4 days changed my life forever. The day my sister died and the 3 days that followed. The decisions we make every day will determine how your future life will be. One day I woke up at 4 a.m. with this on my mind and literally sat up in the dark and wrote it in my notes. And as I didn't want to let this message part part of my story slip away. We are created to be great, to shine bright like the stars in the sky on a clear night. We were created with different gifts that was meant for us to share and bless others with. We were created to be free like the butterflies floating around lightly and full of color and beauty. Not one is the same, neither are we. Life is hard, but we are strong. You and I have a choice every day. We can either fight and show this world that we are conquerors, or we can shrink and die without fulfilling our true destiny. It is your choice. As I told my now ex-husband often, I will die empty, as I will use all my God-given gifts to serve others. I will not die wondering what my life would be like if I did this or that. I am doing it as much as I possibly can right now. So live your life. Break the chains that were created from our past hurts and disappointments. Stop thinking in fear and walk in boldness. Let your light shine bright and live. May you share this story with everyone you know, as they may know someone or be that someone who needs this message. You are amazing. It's time to show up as him or her. My name is Christine Austin, and I love you to life now. Living in full expectation, never-ending opportunities within. Peace.